Why was she breathing like she was back in Afghanistan, over a parking spot? Christine tightened her grip on the steering wheel, knuckles pale against the soft gray leather. Fort Redstone's morning humidity clung to her skin like memories she didn't invite. 4 years since that convoy. 4 years since metal, dust, and blood tore her world open. 4 years since she promised herself she would never again be caught unprepared. Yet here she was, heart racing, breath measured slow, because she knew what could live inside silence, and what could explode from it. She tucked a loose strand of silver-flecked hair behind her ear and checked her reflection. Not a colonel today, not a warrior. Just a tired woman in contractor beige, holding paper instead of a rifle. Perfect camouflage for the mission she never should have needed to run. She whispered the grounding line Dr. Pearson taught her. Feet firm, breath slow, you are here, you survived, you keep going. A Honda door shut, a soft click. It sounded harmless. So had the pop of gravel in Afghanistan. Right before the world turned to fire. Easy, she breathed. This is just a base, just a parking lot, no danger. But danger rarely announced itself. Sometimes it walked toward you with a smirk. Footsteps heavy, confident, wrong. You're in my spot. The voice hit like a punch, sharp, entitled, amused. She had heard that tone before. Intense, in briefing rooms. In men who believed rank made them gods. Staff Sergeant Cross stopped inches from her, heat rising off asphalt and ego alike. 2 other NCOs flanked him, loyal the way weakness always clung to power. Christine kept her hands open, visible. Old training. Old instincts. I apologize, there was no signage. I can move my vehicle. Reason calm. The language of adults. But his eyes wanted something else. Fear maybe, or tears. Some men only felt tall when someone else felt small. You think I care about signage? He scoffed, stepping closer. A predator circling prey he did not understand. She smiled softly. I meant no disrespect. There. The flicker in his eyes. Not satisfaction. Confusion. Her calm pressed into him like an insult. He didn't want peace. He wanted permission to be cruel. You civilians think you can just walk around here like you matter. His friends laughed. The weak kind borrowed confidence from a louder man. Christine's pulse steadied. Funny how danger used to spike her fear. Now it sharpened her mind. She had spent 28 years reading hostile intent. Enemy uniforms changed. Predators never did. She shifted her stance barely an inch. The quiet posture soldiers learn in rooms where violence breathes. Sir, she said softly, weary rather than afraid, I'm leaving now. But there are men who mistake mercy for weakness. He ripped the clipboard from her hand. Papers flew, a snowstorm of duty on sun-baked ground. A laugh, cruel, childish. She didn't bend to gather them. He wanted her to break. She didn't bend for anyone. Except war. And then the boot came. No warning. No hesitation. Just pure, ugly power slamming into her lower back. Pain burst through old shrapnel scars. Bright, electric, vicious. She hit rough pallets but protected her head, instinct wired deeper than fear. Air fled her lungs. Her vision flashed white. Her knees found ground. Silence stretched. They waited for her to cry, to plead, to fit their idea of a victim. She rose instead. Slow, measured, controlled. Cross blinked. A bully seeing the first crack in his fantasy. Maybe next time you learn your place, he spit. Her place. Funny. Her place had been in rooms planning operations that saved the country he served. Her place had been inside Humvee wreckage holding a bleeding soldier's hand, whispering, don't sleep, stay with me. Her place had been in a hospital learning to breathe again, while men like him strutted through gyms pretending they knew strength. Her phone buzzed. Command. They'd seen the hit through the body cam in her badge. She declined once. Protocol. It rang again. She lifted it, voice steady. Parker. The air shifted. Cross froze mid-gloat, something primal warning him that the world had changed, and he was too slow to understand why. Yes, sir, she said into the phone. Assault confirmed, no serious injury. 3 minutes out, understood. 3 minutes. Helicopters already inbound. She hung up and met Cross's eyes. No anger. Just truth. That was Lieutenant General Whitfield. His face drained. Laughter died behind him. Even the air seemed to stop. You what? Christine Parker, to the man who thought his boot defined her, only said, You should have listened when I offered to move the car. Rotor thunder rose in the distance, low and heavy. The kind that shakes windows and careers. Some justice doesn't speak. It lands, with stars on shoulders, and truth in hand. And Christine, quiet, bruised, unbroken, just stood there breathing steady again. Not because she wasn't hurting, but because she had learned long ago. Pain is not the enemy. Silence in the face of cruelty is. And she would not be silent. Not today. Not ever again. Why didn't anyone step forward to help her? That question pressed against the inside of her ribs harder than the bruise blooming across her back. Not the kick. Not the humiliation. The silence. Silence was always louder when you knew exactly what it cost to break it. Christine watched the three NCOs shift, the swagger evaporating from their posture like sweat in heat. Faces drained, hands twitching, minds scrambling to rewrite what reality refused to bend for them. But it wasn't fear in their eyes that struck her most. It was disbelief. The look men wear when the world finally holds them accountable and they can't process it, because consequences were always for someone else. Behind them, soldiers who had witnessed the scene lingered uncertainly. Some shocked, some pretending they didn't see anything, some calculating which way loyalty or survival pointed. Only one young soldier, Singh, seemed frozen in shame, fists clenched along his thighs like he wanted to move, wanted to speak, wanted to undo the stillness that had betrayed them all. Christine didn't hate him for it. Fear could paralyze. And institutions built on hierarchy trained people to survive by silence. She should know. She had been silent once, too. A hot wind rolled across the lot, rippling uniforms and scattering the last of her crumpled papers like tiny white flags, surrendering to heat and power. She didn't pick them up. Some things weren't worth kneeling for twice. Rotor thunder thickened, beating the humid air into trembling ribbons. Dust lifted. Command descended. Cross swallowed hard. Sweat beaded at his temple, his jaw working as if chewing stone. He looked at Christine like she'd shapeshifted into something unimaginable. You, he stammered, breath shaking, you set me up. She didn't answer. The truth didn't require her permission. A soldier doesn't accuse gravity of betrayal when falling. He just learns what ground feels like. The first helicopter broke the tree line, sleek, heavy, disciplined. Not training. Not routine. Authority. Christine felt the vibration in her body, not fear, not adrenaline, grounding. A reminder that even in a broken system, justice sometimes still had teeth. Another helicopter followed, then a third. The base shifted. Invisible currents of rank power, consequence rearranged the air. A corporal jogging by stopped mid-stride. A sergeant dropped his coffee. An admin officer backed up instinctively like the wind carried orders in its dust. Christine exhaled slowly, pain whispering up her spine. She would feel it later. She always felt it later. That was the thing about strength. It didn't keep pain away. It just refused to kneel before it. She watched Cross, and for a brief moment, a painful one, she felt something like sorrow for him. Arrogance wasn't born in a day. It was raised, fed, rewarded. He was a product of a broken circle, one that punished the quiet and elevated the loud, until someone louder arrived. And nothing was louder than truth delivered by rotor blades and brass stars. "Ma'am." Singh's voice cracked like a young branch under weight. She turned. He stood stiff, fear and guilt locked in his spine, but his eyes, those held apology, and shame, and something else trying to be bravery. I should have." "You froze," she said gently. "That happens." His mouth opened, ready to break under guilt. She added before he could drown himself, "What matters is what you do after." His shoulders shook with silent relief and grief colliding. He nodded. He would remember that. Maybe one day he'd use it to pull someone else out of silence. Some lessons are born in the moment. Others are paid for. The first helicopter touched down like a gavel. The second followed. The third sealed fate. Wind whipped Christine's clothes, tugging at her hair, reminding her body of airlift dust storms in Afghanistan, evacuation days, medevac rotors, pain and duty braided into memory. She closed her eyes once, steadying. Not there. Here. Boots hit ground, polished, precise, thunder silent in leather and authority. 3 generals walked forward, steps measured enough to break bones made of ego. Behind them, military police spread like a net. Cross inhaled sharply, a trapped animal discovering the cage was his own making. Hunt stepped back until his spine pressed metal, no space left to run. Warren swallowed, eyes glassy, lips trembling like a child who had expected applause and found a courtroom instead. Christine didn't look away from them. Watching wasn't cruelty. It was accountability. For too long, silence had been mistaken for forgiveness. General Nancy Whitfield's voice cut the air like a blade forged by decades of war and regret. "Staff Sergeant Cross, attention." He snapped upright by reflex, obedience ingrained deeper than arrogance. It was almost tragic how quickly pride broke when real authority arrived. Almost. Christine remained still. Not as prey. Not as bait anymore. As witness. As someone who endured so others would not have to. The generals approached, command radiating from them like heat from engine steel. Whitfield's gaze flicked to Christine briefly, a silent question. "Are you standing?" Christine gave the smallest nod. Pain lanced her back. She didn't flinch. The general's jaw tightened, respect mixing with fury she kept tucked behind rank. Then she turned to Cross. "You assaulted a United States Army colonel performing authorized duties." Shock rippled through the watching soldiers, even those who had guessed the truth. Confirmation always hits harder than rumor. Cross's mouth opened, voice scraping forward. "I didn't know." And Whitfield crushed the last refuge of his excuses. "You kicked a woman, that was enough." Silence. Not cowardly this time, righteous. Christine felt her throat tighten, not from pain, from memory. A hospital hallway. A folded uniform. A young female specialist holding her discharge papers crying, "They didn't believe me." A system that, too, often looked away until someone bled. That was why she was here. Not revenge. Reform. She had promised herself she would not become a ghost. And justice, when it finally arrived, wasn't triumphant. It was tired. It was necessary. It was overdue. The military police moved in with methodical steps. Flex cuffs clicked. Cross's breath hitched. Warren broke first, a sob tearing from his chest. Hunt whispered something like a prayer or apology, maybe both, words lost under rotor wash. Christine watched their faces and felt weight, not satisfaction. Accountability wasn't victory. It was burden. She inhaled through the ache in her back, a sharp reminder of the human cost beneath uniforms and medals. No glory in bruises. No pride in pain. But there was dignity in not breaking. Colonel Parker. General Whitfield's voice came softer now, meant for her alone. Christine met her eyes. You held the line. I wish the line didn't need holding, she whispered. Whitfield's breath shuddered, grief hidden in command. Someday it won't. A promise. A hope. Fragile. But real. A medic approached. Christine stiffened instinctively. Hospitals always tasted like dust and loss. Let me walk, she murmured. The medic nodded, understanding more than Christine said. She took one step. Pain licked fire up her spine. She kept going. Behind her, soldiers watched in silence, some ashamed, some awakened, some forever changed by what courage looked like without shouting. Singh called after her softly, "Ma'am." She paused. He swallowed. "Thank you for standing." Christine's voice came low, tired, honest. "Don't thank me. Next time you stand too." He nodded, jaw set. Growth beginning. She continued toward the waiting vehicle, each step steady despite pain climbing her bones like unwelcome memory. Justice had landed. But justice was only the start. Change comes slow. So often slower than scars heal. But today, someone who used power to hurt had been stopped by someone who once bled for a country that sometimes forgot her. And tomorrow, someone else might stand because she did. Sometimes strength isn't loud. Sometimes resilience is quiet, bruised, steady. Sometimes heroism looks like getting up when cruelty expects you to crumble. And sometimes dignity doesn't fight back. It simply rises. Bruised. Steady. Unbroken. Why did walking away hurt more than the kick? Not the bruising ache pulsing across her lower back. Not the throb where bones still remembered shrapnel. Something deeper. Older. The kind of hurt that lived between ribs, not in flesh, but in the history stitched beneath it. Christine steadied her breath as she moved toward the waiting SUV. General Whitfield walked beside her, a silent shield. Not hovering, Christine would have hated that, but present, like a sentry standing guard not out of obligation, but respect. A medic trailed behind at a respectful distance, hands ready but not reaching. A man who understood dignity was sometimes the most fragile thing a veteran carried. She slid into the passenger seat slowly, back protesting every inch. Pain flared, sharp and electric, the body remembering where metal once nested inside muscle. A reminder, war never really ended. It just changed shape. Whitfield closed the door gently. Christine watched through the glass as the general spoke to MPs, calm and controlled. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't retaliation. This was correction. But it still tasted bitter. Footsteps crunched gravel. Singh approached the vehicle again, face taut with a storm he hadn't learned to hide yet. He hesitated, then saluted, too rigid, too nervous, too earnest. Christine lowered the window. "Yes, specialist." His throat bobbed. "Ma'am, what if someone like him comes again?" She held his gaze, tired sorrow and quiet steel meeting his fear. "Then you remember today." His brows furrowed. "And you decide who you want to be in that moment." Because courage isn't a skill. It's a choice. He nodded, eyes burning with something fierce and human. A seed planted. Maybe one day a tree. She lifted the window. The car pulled forward. As they drove past formations and stunned faces, Christine kept her eyes ahead, posture straight, shoulders square, even as fire crawled her spine. Respect wasn't demanded. It was carried. She had learned that long before she ever held rank. The base gate loomed. Freedom in chain link and concrete. Funny how secure places could feel like cages until you passed through them. Once outside, civilian roads opened quiet, unaware, ordinary. A world insulated from the hum of rotors and the weight of rank. Christine exhaled shakily, only then realizing she'd been holding her breath. "Hurts?" Whitfield asked softly. Christine didn't pretend. It was exhausting to pretend. "Yes." "You want the hospital?" "No." "A beat." "You want me to call Daniel?" Christine's fingers curled around her thigh, knuckles whitening. Daniel. His name alone sparked 1,000 memories, some warm, some jagged. The fiancé she left after the convoy. The ring she took off because shaking hands couldn't hold love right. She swallowed hard. "No." Whitfield nodded, no judgment. Just understanding. "That's what I thought." Silence filled the car. Not heavy, protective. Outside, pine trees blurred. Inside, pain settled into a companion, unwelcome but familiar. It was strange how the body remembered what the heart tried to bury. In the quiet, her mind slipped back, not to the kick to sand. To sun that felt like punishment. To metal twisted around bone. To a young soldier screaming for his mother as Christine pressed her hand to his chest, willing his heartbeat to stay inside his body just a little longer. "Stay with me," she had whispered then, the same way she whispered to herself in hospital nights. "Don't leave, not yet." But fear didn't listen. And neither did death. A shaky exhale left her lips. God, she hated memories that didn't ask permission. "You're thinking about the convoy," Whitfield murmured. Christine didn't ask how she knew. Broken recognizes broken. "Yes." Whitfield looked ahead. "I still think about Kandahar." Pain sat between them like a shared rucksack, too heavy for one, slightly lighter for two. Then Whitfield said something unexpected. What he did today, it wasn't just cruelty. It was ignorance. The kind born in systems that think strength is volume and rank is license. Christine's voice came quiet, cutting through truth. And the system only changes when someone bleeds to prove it. Whitfield nodded slowly. "Today you bled with dignity." Christine stared at her reflection in the window, hair undone, jaw tight, eyes tired but unbroken. "Dignity doesn't stop hurt." "No," Whitfield said, "but it stops rot." The words echo settled in her chest. Rot. She had seen it. In barracks whispers. In dismissed complaints. In commanders who looked away. In women who left instead of breaking. And she had promised herself she would never add to that silent graveyard. She shifted again, pain slicing, breath hitching. Whitfield noticed. "Christine, we can stop." "No." A breath. Voice steady. "If I lie down now, I won't get up today." A pause. Then Whitfield said gently, "You don't always have to stand on broken bones to prove you can." Christine's eyes softened just a fraction. "Old habits." "Old wounds," Whitfield corrected. They drove quietly until they reached a private facility, not a hospital. A rehabilitation wing. Quiet. Tucked behind trees. A place veterans went when they didn't want crowds, pity, or fluorescent lights. Christine didn't move right away. Her body screamed in tight pulses, old scars waking like ghosts stretching bones they once lived inside. Whitfield didn't rush her. After a long moment, Christine whispered, "I hate that I still feel anything." Whitfield looked at her gently. "Feeling isn't weakness, it's proof you're still human." Christine huffed softly, a humorless breath. "Some days I miss not being human." "No," Whitfield said, "you miss numb." Christine held her gaze. Truth stung more than bruises. Numb felt safe once. But numb also killed slow. "I'll be back tomorrow," Whitfield added. "Command wants you briefed on the reforms board again. We'll be using today as a lesson." Christine nodded, tired but grateful. Change was slow, stubborn, painful. But today had moved something. Even if just an inch. She opened the door, body protesting, dignity refusing to fold. The medic helped her without touching, guiding only with presence. Inside, clean halls smelled faintly of eucalyptus and new paint. Soft voices murmured. No chaos. No rank. Just recovery. She checked in with minimal words. Everyone here knew who she was, not from today, from years of quiet advocacy, from stories whispered through wounded communities. Christine Parker didn't raise her voice. She raised standards. She reached a private room and sat stiffly on the edge of the bed. The doctor entered, Dr. Avery, calm eyes, steady energy, sleeves rolled to elbows like he healed with hands, not distance. He approached, scanning her posture. Old injury flare. Yes. New trauma. A boot. He paused, anger flickering in eyes trained to stay neutral. Where? Lower lumbar. Rate the pain. Christine considered lying. Old habit. Old armor. 8. Avery nodded. Honesty looks good on you. She didn't smile. He didn't expect her to. As he examined her, pressing gently near the spine, pain flared sharp, a lightning bolt across marrow. Her breath hitched. Avery paused. Breathe. She did. Slow, controlled. Warrior breath. But inside shame coiled, irrational, stubborn. Why was she still this fragile? Why did one kick break open a vault she thought sealed? Avery's voice pulled her back. This isn't weakness. It's a body doing what injured bodies do. Christine stared at the ceiling. I hate that my body remembers what my mind wants to forget. He spoke gently, like someone who had practiced speaking to ghosts and survivors both. The body isn't betraying you, it's protecting you. Survival isn't pretty, but it's noble. That word settled in her chest like warmth seeping into old frost. Noble. Not broken. Not weak. Not dramatic. Not fragile. Noble. She exhaled, air leaving like surrender and strength combined. It'll pass, Avery said. Everything passes. Christine nodded. Not pain, she whispered. He met her eyes. No, but what pain means can change. And she felt something shift, not big, not triumphant, just a thread loosening around her heart. She leaned back slowly, spine cushioned, breath easing. Outside, evening sun bled gold. Inside, her heartbeat finally slowed to belonging, not battle. But even in calm, her mind whispered one truth she had carried for years. Survival wasn't about staying alive. It was about staying you. And today, bruised, exhausted, aching, she had stayed herself. Not unhurt. Not fearless. Just unwilling to fall silent. And sometimes, that was enough. Maybe more than enough. Maybe that was heroism, the quiet kind, the kind without medals, the kind that didn't need applause. Just breath. Just dignity. Just stubborn, quiet courage to keep standing in a world that sometimes kicked without cause. And deep in her chest, A tired, steady oath pulsed. I don't break. I bend and rise. Because strength wasn't absence of pain. It was movement despite it. And tomorrow she would stand again. Not because she had to. Because she chose to. Why did healing always feel like falling before flying? Christine lay in the quiet of her recovery room, a soft hum of the air system filling silence that once would have driven her mad. Hospitals used to mean threat, machines beeping, pain screaming, shadows in the mind where the world once exploded. Now they meant stillness she didn't quite trust. Her back throbbed in slow, stubborn pulses. Old wounds arguing with new insult. Pain radiated down one leg, shrapnel's old signature, rewritten by a boot that never should have landed. She breathed through it, eyes tracing the ceiling patterns, finding shapes where certainty should have been. She had endured worse. That was not the victory she once thought it was. A soft knock at the door. Dr. Avery stepped in, clipboard under one arm, a cup of tea in the other. You look like someone making peace with gravity, he murmured. She accepted the tea with steady but tired hands. I don't make peace, she said. I negotiate ceasefires. He smiled because he understood. He always understood. That bruise will bloom before it fades, he warned gently, like some people. She set the cup aside. It's not the bruise that bothers me. No, he said, it's what it reminded you of. She didn't answer. He didn't push. Good doctors knew when silence was medicine. He left a heating pad and a quiet. If you need anything, press the call button, anything. When the door closed, she exhaled long, slow, cracked at the edges. Alone again. And alone was complicated. Not loneliness. Just absence. Of chaos. Of motion. Of tasks that numbed thought. Stillness gave memory room to move. And it did. Sand. Wind. A rumble beneath tires, wrong, too heavy, too intentional. Convoy rhythm. Her rifle slung low, sun beating through armor plates, sweat trickling down the back of her neck. Private Ellis beside her, 19, freckles, guitar hobby he swore would make him famous once he got home. Ma'am, he had said, voice soft in the roar of engines. You ever think about life after this? She had smiled then. A real one, rare in that desert. Yes, she had answered. I plan to live it. And then, pop, a crack in gravel. Like a footstep in a parking lot today. Harmless until it was. Then the world flipped. Metal screamed. Heat swallowed air. Dust swallowed light. She reached for Ellis, but his hand slipped from hers as the truck spun, her shoulder smashing hard, her helmet slamming bulkhead. Then pain. And silence. The terrible silence before screams. She blinked hard, tears threatening, then wiped them dry before they formed. Grief did not own her. Not anymore. But memory had a way of knocking when triggered by violence, even a small one. Even one boot. Breathe, she reminded herself. Her chest rose slow. Except calm didn't settle, something else did. A knock again, softer, hesitant. Colonel, Singh's voice slipped through a crack in the door. She lifted her chin. Enter. He stepped in, uniform crisp, spine trying to be braver than his doubts. Ma'am, I don't know if I should be here. You came anyway, she said. That's already something. He swallowed, guilt heavy in his shoulders. I should have stepped in. She didn't soften. Sympathy was not permission to avoid growth. You didn't, she said evenly. And you regret it. His voice cracked. Yes. Good. Regret meant he saw the line now. Next time he would be the line. Ma'am, he whispered, I want to learn to be the person who stands. She studied him, not his posture, his eyes. They held humility and hunger not for power but for honor. You already started, she said. You came here, you faced yourself. That's the first battle most people lose. His breath shook. Will they come after me for speaking up? She knew the truth. Institutions didn't change without resistance. Culture didn't shift without friction. Progress cost comfort. Yes, she answered honestly. Some will resent you, some will whisper, some will test you. His face tightened, fear mixing with steadiness. But you won't be alone, she added, voice softer. Not anymore. A flicker hope, fragile but real. And sing, she said as he turned to leave. Yes, ma'am. When the next moment comes, trust your spine more than your fear. He nodded once, harder this time, and left. The door clicked shut. Christine let out a slow breath through her teeth, pain radiating, pride warming the edges of it. Small victories mattered. Seeds grew forests in silence. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it until instinct made her swipe. A voice she hadn't heard in 2 years breathed through the speaker. Chris. Daniel. The name wrapped around her chest like a memory that hadn't finished healing. She closed her eyes. He sounded older, calmer, or maybe just tired, like she was tired. What do you need, Daniel? Her tone wasn't cold, just armored. I heard what happened, he said quietly. I didn't want to intrude, I just... You called anyway, she murmured. Yes. Silence stretched, not comfortable, not sharp, just full of things unsaid. I shouldn't have left you alone afterward, he whispered. She swallowed, throat tight. You didn't leave, I pushed you away. I should have pushed back. That's not how trauma works. He exhaled, that slow breath she remembered from nights when nightmares dragged her gasping into the dark, and he held her until dawn. Are you okay? He asked. The truth rose bitter and honest. I don't know yet. Another silence, but this one gentler. His next words weren't dramatic, weren't pleading, just steady. I'm here, whether you want me close or far, just here. Her fingers trembled just once before she stilled them. She didn't answer. She couldn't. He filled the silence softly. I'll hang up, call if breathing gets heavy. You don't have to talk, I'll just be there. He paused. You don't have to survive alone anymore, Chris. The line went dead. She stared at the phone like it was something dangerous and holy at once. Support. Unasked but offered. She didn't know what to do with that yet. A nurse entered quietly to check vitals, and Christine straightened, posture perfect, composure unbroken. Once the nurse left, she lay back again and the room dimmed as afternoon slid toward evening. Outside, a lone soldier ran laps, chasing the version of himself he hoped to be. Inside, Christine closed her eyes, not to escape, but to rest. And somewhere deep, beneath the armor and the ache, a single truth pulsed like a heartbeat learning softness again. Strength wasn't refusing help. Strength was knowing when to take it. Pain hummed. Memory flickered. But she did not sink. She stayed. Present. Hurting. Healing. Human. And tomorrow, when she walked back onto that base, when whispers slithered through halls, when silence tried to shame her again, she would stand. Not because she healed overnight, but because standing while bruised was how she built a world where the next woman didn't have to. Justice had landed, but change marches slow, and she would be there for every step of it. Some battles aren't fought in deserts. Some aren't fought with rifles. Some are fought in parking lots, in policy rooms, in quiet hearts deciding to be brave again. And dignity, real dignity, doesn't roar. It breathes. It waits. It rises. Even when it hurts. Especially then. Why did the base feel colder when justice had already happened? Morning light cut across the rehab facility's floor, gold and quiet, as Christine tied her boots the slow, careful way you tie them after injury. Every lace a reminder you're rebuilding, not broken. Her back still burned, pain threading through muscle like stubborn memory refusing to let go, but she stood anyway. Not perfectly, not effortlessly, but she stood. She looked at herself in the mirror, hair pulled tight, uniform crisp not because she needed to impress anyone, but because dignity didn't ask for permission to exist. Her reflection stared back calm, battle-tested eyes, tired but unyielding. The kind of tired that didn't ask for pity. The kind that meant she had lived. A text buzzed. Whitfield. Car outside, and yes, they're already talking. Christine breathed once slow. Whispers never scared her. Silence used to. But whispers meant truth was moving through the cracks. She grabbed her bag and stepped into the hallway. The nurse at the desk nodded with that mixture of respect and all that Christine still didn't know how to wear. Going back already? She asked softly. Christine's answer came steady. Always. Outside, the morning air kissed her face, cool, grounding. She inhaled, felt strength settle beneath hurt like bone under bruise. The black SUV waited. Whitfield inside, sleeves rolled up, coffee untouched, the look of a leader who didn't sleep well when her people hurt. You ready? She asked. No, Christine answered truthfully. I'm going anyway. Whitfield's lips twitched, half smile, half pride. Good. The gate guards straightened when they saw her. Not because of rank, but because some people walk like storms you don't disrespect. As they rolled in, Christine saw it, the shift. Eyes lingering, whispers trailing in their wake. Some curious, some admiring, some resentful, the kind of resentment that comes from watching someone else do what you were too afraid to attempt. Hunt and Warren were gone, escorted off base last night, rumors said. Cross was in maximum custody, awaiting charges. But culture doesn't disappear with handcuffs. Sometimes it hibernates, waiting for weakness. Christine walked in anyway. First stop, command conference room. She entered to a hush, officers around the table, screens glowing, briefing packets stacked. Some avoided her gaze, shame disguised as paperwork. Others nodded, subtle, quiet solidarity. Singh sat in the back row, chest lifted just a little higher when he saw her. Not pride. Reassurance. Courage with training wheels on. Colonel Matthews cleared his throat, older, rigid, dignified in a way earned not assumed. Colonel Parker, he said, good to see you back so soon. It's not soon, she replied calmly. It's necessary. A ripple. Not dramatic but real. She took her seat slowly back stiff, ribs tight, refusing to grimace. Pain did not get to narrate her posture. The room watched. Some with guilt. Some with quiet admiration. Some calculating whether aligning with her was safe yet. Institutional bravery came slowly. Matthews began. We're here to discuss culture resilience and conduct reforms post-incident. Post-incident. As if the boot were paperwork. As if trauma fit neatly into a bullet point. Christine folded her hands, voice steady but edged. Don't call it an incident, call it what it was: abuse, entitlement, failure of leadership. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable in the right way. Matthews cleared his throat again, softer this time. Noted, he said quietly. And he meant it. A man old enough to know when to listen. Another officer spoke. Captain Reed, young, polished, anxious not to say the wrong thing. What happened was regrettable. Christine turned her head slowly toward him. Regret is passive, correction is active. Which one are we doing? Reed swallowed. Correction, he said. Good. She leaned back slightly, the movement costing pain but paying dignity. The briefing unfolded policies, accountability protocols, training updates. Necessary steps. Slow, bureaucratic, imperfect but movement. Christine contributed when needed, silent when not, authority without aggression, strength without domination. Halfway through, a message flashed on her phone. A name she thought she'd buried. Daniel. Outside, not coming in. Just wanted to see you walk out proud. She stared at the text, a breath caught somewhere between ribs and memory. Then she locked her screen. Not now. Healing had timing. And she controlled it. When the meeting adjourned, officers lingered with subtle glances, unsure whether to approach, afraid of appearing performative, afraid of appearing absent. Singh wasn't afraid. He walked straight to her. Ma'am, I filed a statement. Christine studied him, eyes clear, hands only slightly trembling. That took courage. He nodded once. I figured if I didn't, then Cross still wins. She felt something warm flicker in her chest. Respect. Hope. Courage is contagious, she murmured. He didn't smile, he stood straighter. Your standing made it easier. No, she corrected gently. I stood for me, you stood for you, both matter. He exhaled, a weight shifting from his shoulders. She left the building. Sunlight hit her face, bright, real, honest. Walking across the courtyard, she heard them murmurs. That's her. The colonel who got him arrested. She had backup, anyone would have looked strong. She didn't even fight back, why didn't she? She didn't need to. Voices. Opinions. Weakness disguised as commentary. Christine didn't break stride. Strength doesn't argue with spectators. A figure leaned against a Humvee up ahead, arms crossed, eyes warm, conflicted. Daniel. Black t-shirt, tattoos she remembered tracing once with lips and fingertips, hair a little longer, gaze softer but haunted around the edges. He didn't move to her. Didn't force anything. Just waited quietly, respecting her pace. She stopped in front of him. You came. His voice came low. I didn't come inside. This moment wasn't mine to take space in. Smart man. Good man. Maybe not hers anymore. Maybe someday again. But not today. You look steady, he said. I'm standing, she answered. He nodded, pride without claim. You always did. A soft wind passed, lifting a strand of her hair, brushing memory across her skin like déjà vu and future tangled. I thought you didn't want to be part of this world anymore, she murmured. He held her gaze. I didn't want to be part of the part that broke you. But I will always show up for the part that heals you. Her chest tightened, painful, human, real. She looked down, then back up, spine straight, voice low. I don't know what I'm ready for. He nodded once. I'll be whatever distance lets you breathe. That was not weakness. That was love without ownership. Respect without demand. Dangerous thing to feel when learning to stand again. Christine exhaled, pain and strength braided. Thank you, she said. Not for coming. For understanding. He stepped back, not away, just giving room. Whenever you walk out of here, he said softly, I want you to feel watched in a good way again. She blinked, emotion pricking sternum, not eyes. She turned. Walked away. Not because she rejected comfort, but because healing sometimes required solitude first. He didn't call after her. He didn't chase. He honored. And that mattered more than staying or leaving. As she crossed the base yard, troops parted subtly, respect, intimidation, uncertainty. She didn't need any of it. She didn't resent any of it. She simply walked, steady, quiet, unbroken even where she hurt. Culture didn't change in a day. But today it shifted. And every step she took pressed truth into ground where silence used to live. Courage had a sound, not a roar. A footfall, steady, unshaken, returned. And deep in her chest, quieter than the pain, louder than the fear, lived the simplest promise. I don't walk alone anymore, even when I walk alone. Some stories aren't about fighting. Some are about continuing. And continuing after being knocked down was the purest form of strength she'd ever known. Why did peace feel like a battlefield now? Days later, Christine stepped back onto the base alone. No generals by her side this time. No rotors thundering overhead. Just her. Boots silent against concrete, posture straight despite the memory still ringing in her spine. The bruise had gone from purple to yellow, from pain to reminder. It would fade. She wouldn't. She could feel the atmosphere shift around her. Not open hostility, not open support either. Something quieter. Something calculating. Retaliation didn't always punch. Sometimes it whispered. And whispers had started. She heard one as she passed the commissary. Low voices. Hushed tones. That's her. Careful around her, she'll have you arrested. She's making us look weak. No, she's making us look accountable. A woman said that last line. Christine didn't look to see which. She didn't need to. Strength didn't announce itself. It just stood. Inside admin, she logged in to find her workstation moved. Subtle, petty, not demotion, just displacement, like someone hoped small cuts could bleed dignity. She looked at the new desk, front corner, high traffic, zero privacy. Message received. A junior staff sergeant nearby pretended to be very busy typing nothing. Kristen, one of the quiet ones, efficient, serious eyes, tension in her posture like she'd been waiting her whole life to learn how to breathe without permission. Christine placed her folder down and said nothing. Silence can be power too. Minutes later, footsteps approached Matthews, steady, older, thoughtful. I didn't approve this desk move, he said. I know. You want me to fix it? No. A brow lifted. May I ask why? Christine's gaze didn't waver. Because if I fight every petty slight, I fight small. I only fight big. He stared, then nodded slow respect. You're going to change this place, he murmured. No, she corrected softly. I'm going to help it change itself. That was harder. That was slower. That was real. He walked off. Not to fix her desk, but with the unmistakable posture of a man now watching who made the move. Consequences didn't always need orders. Sometimes they just needed visibility. As she worked, whispers continued around her like static, not loud enough to wound but sharp enough to try. She ignored them. Not because they didn't cut, but because she refused to bleed for cowardice. Around midday, a sharp knock tapped her table. A young woman stood there, uniform crisp, eyes fierce but afraid of their own fire. Private tours. Christine recognized the posture. Someone learning to stop shrinking. Ma'am, Tor said quietly. Can I talk to you? Christine gestured to a chair. Tor sat, spine too straight, palms damp. Her voice cracked, breath trembling. I wanted to say thank you. For existing, Tors whispered. For showing us, you can survive here without turning into them. Christine felt something warm split her chest, pain and pride tangled. Existing isn't enough, Christine said gently. You're not here to survive, you're here to serve, and service shouldn't mean shrinking. Tors blinked fast, swallowing emotion. Ma'am, I reported harassment 6 months ago. They told me I was too sensitive, said I misunderstood, said I should invite attention. There it was. Rut. Same roots, different leaves. Did you misunderstand? Christine asked, not doubting, guiding. No, Tor said, voice firming. I didn't. Then you weren't too sensitive. You were too alone. Tors exhaled, like truth released pressure in her bones. What do I do now? She whispered. You do what he fears most, Christine said. You outlast him. A beat. And if he tries again. Christine leaned forward, calm, steel and silk. Then you don't handle him alone. We do it together. Tors didn't cry, but her eyes shined with relief, so raw it felt like witnessing rebirth. Thank you, she breathed. Go train, Christine said. Get stronger in body, in spine, in voice. Tors nodded, and something uncoiled in her posture, small but irrevocable. Growth, once started, rarely reverses. After she left, Christine sat back, exhaustion sliding in quietly beneath purpose. Pain pulsed once sharp but distant. Not weakness. Memory. She needed air. Outside, clouds rolled low. The sky had that heavy tension, like weather was holding its breath. She walked the perimeter path, slow, steady steps. Halfway through, a familiar voice approached. You're walking like someone negotiating with their spine. Dr. Avery, hands in pockets, reading her like pulse charts. I'm walking like someone with a bruise and a mission. That bruise will heal, he said softly. The mission might scar. She paused at the word. Scar. Not wound. Not permanent pain. Survival's handwriting. There are worse things than scars, she said. Yes, he agreed, silence. They walked a few steps together, not doctor and patient. Two humans holding their own broken pieces with grace. You have support, he asked. I have me. That's good, he said. But sometimes having you is the hardest part. That line sat heavy. True in ways she didn't want to unpack today. She nodded toward the barracks. I have allies, not many, but enough. And Daniel. Her jaw tightened, a reflex, not anger. He wants to help. And you don't want to need it. She looked ahead, jaw set. I just don't know if letting someone in means losing ground. I've worked to stand alone. I'm not sure I know how to stand and lean. Avery's voice was thoughtful. The strongest structures have support beams. That doesn't make them weak. It makes them safe. She didn't answer. He didn't push. He only said, he called me, worried, didn't ask for info, just asked me to tell you he's proud. She closed her eyes briefly, just enough to feel. Just enough to ache. When she opened them, she spoke quietly. Tell him thank you. I think he'd rather hear it from you. She didn't respond. Not refusal, readiness not yet formed. A sharp sound broke their quiet phone buzz, urgent tone. Christine checked screen. Internal Affairs request. Media inquiry, incident leak. Prepare statement. She exhaled slow. Here it comes. The outside world entering. Not chaos, pressure. Watching. Judging. Expecting a hero or a headline. Avery watched her face. You ready for that? No, she answered honestly. But I'm not afraid of it. He nodded. Good, fear isn't the enemy, silence is. She walked toward command, body aching, heart steady. The wind picked up rustling flags, whispering change through branches. Voices followed her path, some admiring, some bitter, some learning. Tors saluted her from across the yard, not protocol, respect. Christine returned its slight tilt, just enough to say, I see you. Near the steps to HQ, Whitfield intercepted her, eyes on fire with controlled fury. "It leaked," she said quietly. "They want a narrative." Christine breathed in and answered steady. "Let them watch, I'm not ashamed." Whitfield's voice softened. "I know that's what scares them." Christine stood at the edge of the stairs, spine straight despite pain flickering beneath muscle and memory. She climbed, one step at a time. Not fast, not dramatic, just steady. And sometimes steady was the most powerful thing a soldier could be. Behind her, change followed like a shadow learning to walk in light. Strength wasn't silence. Strength was speaking without shouting, standing without breaking, rising without applause. And she rose, bruised, steady, unafraid of being seen. Because sometimes dignity doesn't defend itself. It simply exists, and the world adjusts around it. Why did the world only pay attention after pain went public? The corridor outside command felt tighter than usual, fluorescent lights humming like a nervous pulse, as Christine walked toward the briefing room. Soldiers paused when she passed, eyes sliding away, not disrespect, not avoidance. Just uncertainty. Reverence mixed with discomfort. Heroes made people proud. Survivors made them reflect. Reflection scared cowards. Whitfield pushed open the conference room door. Inside, a screen glowed with headlines. Colonel assaulted on U.S. base, culture under scrutiny. Female veteran targeted, investigation expands. Boot, bruise, and brass, military eyes accountability. Christine stared at the screen, not angry, not triumphant. Just tired. The story wasn't about her bruises. It was about the rot beneath polished floors. Matthew stood at the head of the table, tie loose, eyes heavy. "They're circling," he said. "Pentagon wants a statement, controlled. No press interviews." Christine nodded. "I don't need a spotlight." "But you may get one anyway," he replied. "People want faces for stories. They want symbols." She held his gaze. "I'm not a banner." "No," Whitfield murmured, "you're a mirror. Mirrors scare people more." Christine inhaled slowly. Spine ached. Memory tugged. Steady anyway. Matthews tapped the table. "Someone leaked the report. We don't know who." Attention flickered. Christine felt it, like scent drifting from a wound that hadn't burst yet. She scanned the room. Eyes flinched away from hers. "Someone wants control of the story," she said. Whitfield nodded. "Or wants to undermine you." A younger officer, Carter, cleared his throat nervously. "Ma'am, some soldiers are saying you used rank to humiliate him." Christine turned her head slowly. Not angry, just surgical. "Is that what you think?" "And no, ma'am, of course not. It's just easier to blame a woman who stands than a man who falls." Carter looked down. Shame crawled his neck. Whitfield cut in, voice calm steel. "Perception battles are brewing. Brace for it." Christine's voice stayed even. "I don't fight perception. I live truth. Truth outlasts rumor." Matthews nodded, not admiration, recognition. The room quieted. Tasks assigned. Damage control plans outlined. Christine listened without flinch, without panic. She survived explosions. Words didn't scare her. But what came next did. A message appeared on a central monitor, anonymous but internal. If she didn't want trouble, she should have stayed quiet. A mutter of disgust rippled soft, embarrassed, angry. Whitfield leaned forward. "Trace it." A tech tapped keys. A beat. A blinking name. Capt Reed. The room froze. Christine didn't look at him yet. She breathed first. Controlled calm, lethal in restraint. Then she turned. Reed's face drained, like a man seeing his own cowardice reflected and hatting its shape. He stammered, I didn't mean, I was frustrated, it's complicated. Christine stood. Slow. No theatrics. No raised voice. Nothing about respect is complicated, she said. You don't have to like me. You don't even have to agree with me. But you don't get to punish me for refusing to be silent. Reed swallowed, guilt thick in the air. Whitfield's voice came cold as command winter. You will report to ethics office effective immediately. Stand down from command. Reed choked out a nod, shame cutting deeper than reprimand. Christine didn't watch him leave. She had no interest in triumph. Only truth. The meeting ended. People filed out quiet, some unsettled, some inspired, some suddenly aware of their own posture. Christine stepped into the hallway and felt it. A wave inside her ribcage, pressure tightening like memory and pride and hurt collided. She didn't break in front of them. She walked outside, toward the far training field where grass met wind, and nobody pretended strength had to look rigid. Halfway there, her breath faltered. Not weakness. Release. She sat on the bench slowly, pain whispering up her spine, and the weight she had been carrying, silent, strong, relentless, settled beside her. And finally, she let herself cry. Not loudly. Not violently. Just quiet tears sliding down a face trained to hold the world, without asking it to hold her back. She cried for Ellis. She cried for every soldier told to shut up and endure. She cried for the 19-year-old version of herself who thought resilience meant silence. She cried because healing wasn't linear and strength had edges that sometimes cut from the inside. Footsteps approached, soft, hesitant. Sing. He didn't speak at first. He sat 2 feet away, respectful distance, brotherhood distance. After a moment he spoke, voice low. When you came back from the hospital, I thought you were unstoppable, untouchable, like nothing got to you. Christine wiped tears, not ashamed. Everything gets to me, she whispered. It just doesn't get to win. Singh swallowed, emotion raw. The barracks has voices, guys defending you, others saying you made them look weak. And you, she asked. I told them weakness isn't having a line. Weakness is needing someone weaker to feel strong. Christine's throat tightened, pride and grief braided. That's courage, she murmured. It's you, he said quietly. You're teaching us how to stand. She looked at him, not as superior officer, not as mentor. As someone who knew carrying weight was easier when someone else picked up a corner. She placed a hand briefly on his shoulder, light, grounding. Don't follow me, she said. Walk beside me. His jaw set. Yes, ma'am. He left her to breathe. Good man. Growing man. Moments later, another figure approached, steps familiar, presence quiet. Daniel didn't sit right away. He knelt not in devotion but in human understanding, at eye level, not towering, not rescuing. He handed her a bottle of water. Didn't speak. Silence between them wasn't empty now. It was safe. When Christine finally exhaled, she said, voice soft, cracked at edges. I'm tired. Daniel nodded, slow, steady. You're allowed to be. She looked at him, eyes weary, spine still straight. I don't know how to lean. He answered without hesitation. You don't have to lean. Just don't push me away when I stand near. Those words pierced gently, not pain, truth. She didn't answer. But she didn't move away either. He stayed beside her, not holding, not fixing. Just present. Silent armor. Above them, the flag shifted in slow wind. Voices drifted from distance, training cadence, life moving, bass breathing. Christine's breathing steadied again, not because pain disappeared, but because she let it exist without shame. She wiped her face once, set her shoulders, stood again. Daniel rose with her, not touching, not crowding. Just ready. She looked at the horizon, base stretching forward. Battle ahead, not with guns, but with culture, courage, quiet revolution. Her voice came low, certain. I don't want to be seen as the woman who got a soldier arrested. Daniel tilted his head. What do you want to be seen as? She answered without pause. The woman who refused to let abuse become normal. Wind tugged hair from her face. Her spine hurt. Her heart bruised. Her resolve steel. Strength wasn't loud. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't always heroic. Sometimes strength was staying when walking away would be easier. Sometimes strength was standing soft instead of hard. Sometimes strength cried and kept moving. Christine turned back toward headquarters. Let's go, she said. We still have work. Daniel smiled, quiet pride, quiet love, zero pressure. He followed, not leading, not claiming, not rescuing. Walking beside. And the base watched, not a spectacle, not a scandal. A woman who endured. A culture beginning to shift. A soldier learning softness. A man learning patience. A new generation learning courage. And somewhere deep in Christine's chest, the moral she never said aloud, breath steady. Strength is not the absence of breaking. Strength is breaking and choosing to rise anyway. Why did the final battle feel so quiet? A week later, Christine stood outside the auditorium, sunlight brushing her shoulders like an old friend easing its way back into her life. The base was hosting a mandatory cultural briefing, the kind most soldiers usually groaned at, joked about, or slept through. Not today. Today, every face carried tension, curiosity, and something else, expectation. They weren't here for policy. They were here because Christine Parker walked halls again and didn't bow her head. She rolled her shoulders gently, pain still there, dull but honest. Healing wasn't absence. Healing was coexistence. Beside her, General Whitfield reviewed notes she didn't need. The woman was her own authority, but preparation gave her comfort. Balance of power and humility, the rare kind. You don't need to speak unless you choose to, Whitfield murmured. I'll speak, Christine said quietly. Silence made this happen, it won't heal it. Whitfield nodded, pride flickering in her eyes. Inside, seats filled. Low voices. Shifting boots. Not fear, anticipation. Christine waited backstage, steadying herself. Breathing slowly, spine protesting but holding. She remembered quieter rooms, tense with dust in the air and prayers whispered over radios. Convoy briefings with adrenaline humming under skin. Field hospitals where dignity fought pain in every breath. This room was different. Not war outside. War inside, of culture, of behavior, of silent complicity learning to speak. Singh stood near the front, posture tall now, no tremor in his hands. Torres sat 2 rows behind him, eyes forward, jaw set, courage rooted. They had changed. Not from the incident, from witnessing what resistance looked like without violence. Daniel leaned against the back wall of the room. Not part of this world anymore, but present, silent and steady like an anchor she hadn't asked for but was learning not to resent. He didn't watch her like she was fragile. He watched her like she was unstoppable. The session began. Matthew spoke first, voice measured, grounded. We don't talk today about rules. We talk about respect. What it looks like when no one is watching. And what happens when someone finally does. Murmurs stilled. Eyes locked forward. Whitfield stepped up next, and she didn't just speak. She commanded air. This base will not tolerate a culture where silence protects power instead of people. This isn't about gender. This is about dignity. She gestured gently toward Christine. And dignity stood when the system didn't. A ripple like every throat swallowed at once. Whitfield paused. You don't have to admire her. You don't even have to like her. You have to learn from her. Then she looked at Christine, the slightest invitation in her gaze. Christine stepped forward. Pain flared down her back, a reminder and a promise. Every soldier in the room went still. She didn't raise her voice. Strength didn't need volume. When I was 20, I thought bravery meant never showing pain. When I was 30, I thought bravery meant holding pain until it hardened me. Now I know bravery means letting pain teach instead of rule. No movement. No whisper. Just attention real heavy earned. When you witness abuse and say nothing, you don't protect the system. You poison it. She met eyes as she spoke. Old warfighters, new recruits, officers who still believed rank insulated them. You don't stand up because someone good might fall. You stand up so someone innocent doesn't. Singh shifted, pride rising unhidden. Torres blinked hard, jaw tight, shoulders stronger than they'd been a week ago. Christine continued, voice soft but sharper than steel. Our duty is not to each other's egos. It is to each other's humanity. Silence welcomed the words, then held them reverently. She finished with the truth she learned too late to save some memories. I don't stand because I'm fearless. I stand because I remember what it felt like when I couldn't. A breath moved through the room, like collective lungs remembering how to work. Then applause, not loud, not explosive. Slow, certain, real. Not admiration. Recognition. Afterward they filed past her. Some nodded stiffly. Some avoided eye contact. Some, especially the younger ones, held her gaze like it steadied them. And one, a sergeant in his 40s, face weathered with regret, stopped long enough to whisper. I stood by once, I won't again. Christine nodded. That was worth more than any headline. Outside, air smelled like pine and change. She walked slowly, injury reminding her she was human, not myth. Daniel followed silently, then matched her step. You did it, he said. No, she replied. I started it. He studied her, careful and warm. And where do you go from here? She looked out across the parade ground, sunlight glinting off metal, soldiers running drills, orders crisp in morning air. Forward, she said simply. Not away, not back, just forward. He smiled softly, admiration, respect, heartbreak, hope, all mixed like sand and sun and memory. Do you need help with that? Her lips twitched, almost a smile, but older, wiser. No, she said. Want, maybe. He exhaled, small, grateful. You deserve want. She didn't answer. Not because she didn't know, but because she was learning to hold space for answers still forming. Across the field, Singh trained with renewed purpose, Torres correcting form beside him. Their voices crisp, confident. A future she fought for, already standing without asking permission. Christine felt something ease in her chest. Not absence of pain. Presence of meaning. Avery passed by, giving her a knowing nod, doctor proud of a patient who healed more than bone. Whitfield stood at HQ steps, watching her like generals do when they know history doesn't always wear medals. Sometimes it wears bruises. Christine turned toward the exit, not to leave, but to walk her own pace. And as she moved, her mind whispered the truth this whole story had been leading her back to. Strength is quiet. Power doesn't shout. Dignity doesn't bruise, it endures. Healing isn't forgetting, it's growing around what hurt you. She paused once, looked back at the base. Not with bitterness, not with triumph, with knowing. She survived war abroad. She survived silence at home. She survived culture sharpened against her back. And she rose. Not flawless. Not invincible. Human. Unbroken where it mattered most. She walked forward slower than once, stronger than ever. Because sometimes, dignity doesn't speak. It simply stands. And sometimes, strength doesn't roar. It simply refuses to kneel. And sometimes, justice doesn't shout. It arrives quietly, in the footsteps of those who choose to rise again.